Hey cuties, I'm Myles Sexton, a content creator, activist, and loud and proud disruptor of the norm. On Our Private Bits, we talk about the things and people that don't get talked about enough, or at all. Trust me, as a sober, HIV positive, non-binary person, I would know. Join me as I chat with people in my life and from around the world whose stories deserve to be heard. Maybe you'll learn something new, and you will definitely LOL. Our Private Bits is also part of the Acast Creator Network. All right, cuties. Today on Our Private Bits, we are doing part 2 of the questions that you asked me online. And I'm so excited to get into more of these because we had so much fun on the last episode.
I know, it was so much fun. Oh, I loved it. Okay, should we just dive right in then?
Let's get into it.
Okay, let's start off with, this is a good question, actually. What's something a parent can do to make their young kids feel safe coming out to them?
Oh, I really love this question.
Right?
You know,
Diving right in deep at the first question.
I think a big thing for parents is, it's like how do I make my kids feel safe? And I think it's like a lot of the time, like we don't educate ourselves until like something personally affects us.
Mhm.
And I think it's like, how can I like introduce so many different ranges of topics? I think being around my kids,
Mhm.
instead of just like automatically maybe like focusing in on like heterosexual relationships,
Yeah.
like don't like make things like so gendered, and like and just like open it up a little bit more, of being
Mhm.
like, oh, do you have like, are you dating someone? Do you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend? Or maybe they're a non-binary person, or,
Mhm.
it's just like, I think like inclusive language, like really makes such a big like part of this. And then
Yeah.
also just like how you expose your children to like the movies and the shows that you watch, or,
Mhm.
like, I think it's not just about like sexuality, but like it's also when it comes to like race and like, educating our kids on that if we
Yeah.
are not, and maybe your kids are not exposed to, other people of color or different ethnicities too,
Yeah.
like I think they're all like interconnected. So it's
Mhm.
like, how are we just like trying to like expose our child
Mhm.
to as much education and empathy that we can, so it like makes these topics that I think in the past were very stigmatized and shame filled like
Yeah.
normal, right?
Yeah, no, completely agree with that. Because even like thinking about it, that's how my parents kind of approached it. Is they were just like, let's just show you the world and what it can be like, Like,
Yeah.
and my mom had like a bunch of gay besties and all that kind of
Yes.
stuff too. So it's just like, yeah, literally just showing your kid to that world and knowing that it's like, hi, like this is a world that I love to show you about and like and expose you to. And it's like if this happens to be the same world for you as well, like just know that you're comfortable here with me and all that kind of
Exactly.
stuff. Humor is also a good way of going
Yeah.
about it too.
Agreed.
Like, I don't know, how was it for you when it was coming like, when you were coming out in particular? Did you have, like, a interesting
Yeah,
time?
I mean, like, mine was, like, more traumatic. I'm not
Ugh.
traumatic, but, like, I think it was, like, I denied it for so long because I
Mhm.
just, like, everyone was telling me that I was gay,
Yeah.
like, before I even could understand it. So, like, my parents would, like, ask me if I was, and then, like, I would say no because, like, I didn't know what it really meant to be
Yeah.
gay, or queer. And so, like, when I finally did, like, I feel like my parents were a bit, like, upset with me because I said no for so many years prior to that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I think as well, that actually just exposes another thing for that's good for this
Yes.
question is, like,
Yeah.
don't pressure your child.
Yes.
Don't tell them to come
Totally.
out, like, just kind of let them do their own
Yeah,
thing, and
allow it to
yeah,
happen.
like, you can make hints at it, or you can just be like, "Are you seeing anyone? Are they"
Yes.
like, you can do those little things and just, like, just let them come to you with it first.
Totally.
Yeah, and then, like, just accept them for who they are. Don't make it a huge deal as well too.
Exactly, because I think a lot of people, because of, like, a lot of the movies that are out there, I think they think that, like, coming out has to be this, like, big public declaration, and I'm, like, so, like, anti that.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's like I very much look at I, like, instead of saying coming out, I say, like, letting people in, and it's like, I think the people that we trust with these like personal things, like you want to like let them into that part of who you are, and
Yeah,
that should feel safe.
exactly.
So, like, so I just think it's like, by allowing your child just to like live their life and not feel pressured to be one thing or the other, I think is like a really great way to just allow them to like to trust you and feel safe enough
Exactly.
to like that you're going to accept all parts of their identity.
Exactly, yeah. Like, I think about my mom, she handled it probably in the best way
Yeah.
possible.
What did she do?
Well, I was like the drama queen about it, of course,
Okay.
because I'm sitting here going like, no one has any idea and I have to tell my mom and it's going to be this big deal type of thing. So she's already sitting at the computer. She's doing her own work and
Yes.
everything. I go over to her. I sit down in front of her and I'm like, "Mom, I have to tell you something." And she's just like, she literally just kind of like looks over at me and goes like, "What do you need to tell me, sweetie?" And I'm just like, "Mom, I'm gay." And she's like, "Honey, I know." If it wasn't obvious from the Speedo men showing up on the screensaver, like it was just like, oh no, thank you,
That's
mom, for like making it very obvious and not giving a shit about it. But it
that's
was,
so
if
funny.
anything, just making it the funniest moment for me. And like my
Totally.
favorite story to tell is like my coming out story to my mom,
Yeah.
because it's just like that's how she handled it. And
I
I'm like,
love it.
that's brilliant. That's a great way of handling that as well.
Ah,
All
so
right.
cute.
Yeah. Let's go on to the next question. This one is related to your sobriety stuff.
Yes.
So, how can someone who chooses to drink alcohol support you being sober?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think everyone can be different, right? Like, and they're probably at like different phases of their sobriety.
Yes.
I think, like, in the beginning when I was sober, it was really hard for me to be around other people who were drinking, but like now where I am, like 6 years into my sobriety, it's not, um, like I'm comfortable being around other people that are
Mhm.
drinking. It doesn't bother me, it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
feel as like activating, I think, to my sobriety.
Mhm.
I just think that like one of the biggest ways I think that you can, or two of the biggest ways that you can like really support someone is like, if you know someone is like on a sober journey, just like check in with them. I
Mhm.
think it's like, see how they're doing, ask them what support looks like for them,
Yeah.
because it's like, I think support is so different based off of who we are.
Yes.
And then like, if you're like ever hanging out with them, maybe if you're having them over for dinner, have non-alcoholic options that are not water, or if you're like choosing to go to a restaurant, maybe like checking ahead to see if they have like mocktails available. It's just like
Yeah.
these are just like such little things that can just like allow someone who is sober to just feel normal and not have to it always be about their sobriety. And I think a lot of people who are sober don't want attention on the fact that they're sober, and so,
Yeah.
like, when there is that sort of attention, I think it can be like a bit activating, I think, so
Yeah, it's kind of almost in the same way, like if someone misgenders,
yeah,
where it's like
totally.
if you make a big deal about it, then you're just kind of sitting there going like, okay, well now I'm uncomfortable. I don't know
Yes,
how to feel about this. Versus like
exactly.
just consider the fact,
Yes.
just that's all you really need to think about.
Yeah,
Just like
totally, correct yourself and move forward, and
exactly,
that's it,
that's all you
so
need to do.
totally.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the next question. This is just a nice little shout out for you.
Cute.
Everything you do is amazing. Love your podcasts.
Ah, thank you.
Just
Thanks
a
for
cute little
listening.
one. Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is fun.
Okay.
What is your earliest memory of a favorite clothing article?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I mean, like, I was obsessed with clothes from, like, such a young age. I don't know,
But
like,
there's got to be the one that, like, if anything, started it for you.
I'm, like, trying to think, like, it's kind of embarrassing, but, like,
It's our private
I know, I
bits.
know. So, I was, like, really big into gymnastics, like, people don't know
Okay.
this about me, but I did, like, almost 10 years of
Holy
gymnastics.
shit.
Yeah, and,
Okay.
like, it was, like, the one sport my family would, like, let me play that I felt like I could be, like, effeminate, but,
Yeah.
like, whatever.
A
And I
little bit of
remember
an escape route.
yeah,
Yeah.
and, like, as I got older, we would, like, do competitions, and, like, they gave me, like it's, like, basically like what, like, a woman's, like, one-piece bathing suit would look like, that I would have
Yes.
to wear with, like, little shorts over top.
Oh, okay.
And
Yes.
I just, like, remember putting it on and just, like, I don't know, it just, like, made me feel feminine and, like, fabulous, and, like, I was just, like I was so obsessed with it that,
Yeah.
like, I couldn't stop, like, wearing it. Like, I would just, like, find excuses to, like, put it on, and, like, I would tell my parents I was, like, practicing or, like, training, but I was just, like just wanted to wear it because I felt I don't know, I feel like I felt like, like Pamela Anderson in
Yeah.
many ways of, like, being in this, like, sexy little, like, onesie and, like, wasn't
Yeah.
being shamed for it because, like,
Yeah.
it was my sports uniform. So, like, I felt like I had, like I don't know, there was, like, something, like, really powerful and
Yeah.
beautiful
You
sort of
really
in
felt
that
like that
moment.
bitch, didn't
Yeah,
you?
I did,
Yeah.
but, like, it's like, my dad couldn't, like, get mad at me for wearing it because it was, like, for my sports competition,
Yes, it's true. Oh,
So
perfect. You found like the barrier to put up against the parents to not judge you for it, but then you found your little scapegoat to do it as well.
yeah.
That's cute.
But, like, so, like, my mom also, like, had this, like we called it, like, the tickle trunk and, like, of, like, so many vintage, like, flapper dresses and stuff too that were all, like,
Oh,
embroidered and
yes.
beaded. So, like, I remember, like, like, these are, like, very, like, foggy memories, but I
Mhm.
also, like, remember, like, putting those on as a kid and feeling fabulous, you know,
Yeah.
too, and stuff like that. But like definitely the one piece swimsuit is like the one that stands out the most to
Yeah,
me.
that was the moment for you that it's just like, "Yes, I feel it.
Yeah,
I'm feeling it," and
agreed.
oh, okay, I love that. That's so cute, actually. The idea that it's a one piece too, like, I grew up in the dance realm, and so, like,
Yes.
the idea of that one piece, like, just thinking about how uncomfortable it was
Oh,
for
they're
me,
so
but the
uncomfortable.
worst feeling, but it's like, at the same time, I get
Yeah.
it because it's just like, you kind of like, "Oh,
Yeah. My
yes,
dick was
I am."
absolutely crushed. Like it was just like, oh my
And you're
God.
probably right, you didn't even have any idea of tucking at the time too, so it's like,
No.
there's nothing you could really do about that.
Totally.
You're
I was
just
like,
like, "I'm stuck."
yeah, exactly.
Oh god, yeah, no, they were always so uncomfy, and they never made it good enough so that you could actually, like, sit there
Yeah.
with it, you
I
know?
know, right?
Alright, next question. Oh, this is interesting. Topics about navigating and dating as a trans person. When to disclose it is what they how they phrased it here.
Love it. I mean, like, like I can't, I feel like I can't speak for like all trans people.
Mhm.
I think I can share from my own personal experience, I
Yeah.
guess. But like I think it's one of those things is we are in a climate that, safety is still something that's questioned.
Mhm.
So I would say that the earlier that you can disclose it, I think the safer you're putting yourself. I think like
Yeah.
in situations,
Mhm.
because like it's even like, with my HIV status, like I found like in dating people, it was probably like I would disclose it to them like right away
Mhm.
as soon as we started, like if we were gonna like meet up to see each other, because I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
want to also like invest my time into someone that couldn't accept this part of myself. and
Yeah.
and I think that that's like I think that like also goes for being trans, like,
Mhm.
I'm a pretty like I don't know. I feel like I'm like a very like as a non-binary, trans non-binary person, like I'm very in the middle, but like, for someone that is either more like, is more passing on either the feminine or masculine part,
Mhm.
it's like I think that there is a lot of like rejection that sort of comes, when you do reveal your trans identity. And I
Yeah.
think I think you wanna make sure that, like, that conversation happens in a place that you feel safe, because
Yeah.
you don't know how people can be. And, unfortunately, there is still so many murders of trans people that it's
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't want that to be the thing that, like, that someone, attacks you or physically
Mhm.
harms you, So, like, I think the more upfront you can be before, like, meeting up with someone, I think can sometimes be a safer thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's definitely dependent on location and all that kind of stuff
Yes.
too. Like, I feel and let's just say, like, Canada, I feel maybe not Alberta at the moment, but, like,
Yes.
just the idea that right now you can probably be more, disclosing of that kind of, like, right away versus, like, there's
Totally.
definitely some other places where I know that that could be a problem, you know?
Absolutely.
Thinking about Florida or something like that too, it's
Yeah,
just, like, even the idea of existing, I'm like, I feel for trans people out there, you know? Like, I want safety for them, you know? I want them to have
100%.
that safety, so,
Agreed.
yeah. Oh, it's a dark one out there, but
It
we're
is.
gonna get it. We're gonna figure it all out,
We're
you know?
fighting back.
Exactly. Oh, this is just a fun little one, actually. Anything supernatural happened to you before?
So I don't talk about this stuff a lot because
People get weird
they
about, like,
do
spiritual
because
things, but I love
I
it
yeah,
myself.
okay, so, like, I'm, like, a very spiritual person.
Mhm.
I don't say that from, like, a religious level. Like, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I don't know, I'm very, like, attuned to things. I feel like I see spirit a lot.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like, like when Tyler and I moved into our new home, like there definitely was like a lot of like spirits like present. And like
Oh,
I
really?
would like be sleeping and I would feel someone coming into our room and I would like wake up and there would be like someone in the doorway or at the end of the bed, but it was like this repeated same figure. And then there
Interesting,
also was
okay.
like a lot of like really young spirits that were also in the home. And so yeah, so like definitely I feel like I don't know if that's like supernatural, but like I think, I think my whole life I've definitely like
Yeah.
I've been, been seeing sort of spirits. I can't
Yeah.
talk to them, but I see
Mhm.
them and
Yeah,
can
no
acknowledge them.
I
So
it when it comes to the spiritual realm kind of stuff, like, it gets very interesting because it's very similar to my life, like, I can always recognize them, I can feel them, I can
yes.
see them in the corner of my eye or, like,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, but, like, that's it. It's just like there's nothing I would consider supernatural about it because it's been so natural. But
Totally.
in that way, it is supernatural because not everyone sees the spirit realm in that way, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
So,
feel so bad for like the people that I date because I just like scare the shit out of them because it's like, like because a lot of the time when I see them, I am but like it's usually like nighttime
mhm.
is like or
I mean,
evening,
yeah.
or things like that. And I think it's easier for me to pick up on like the energy of them,
Mhm.
and so when Tyler and I like first moved in together, I would see them, but I like every ti like, I don't know why, but I freak out every time it happens, like, because it just scares the shit out of me, so
Yeah,
I
you
I
just
scream or
yeah.
throw myself off the bed because I think that there's, like, an intruder in our house, and then I realize it's just, like, a spirit, but, like,
Oof.
they're just sometimes they're so real to me,
They
and
can be though.
yeah, and so, like, anyway, I feel so bad, like, all of my exes and even Tyler, like, I'm just, like I, like, scare the shit out of them in the middle of the night, and I'm like, "I'm sorry,"
Sorry, I didn't
I
mean
didn't mean
to.
to.
I just saw it and I can't help it.
Yeah,
Just Steve was in the corner there and just like I couldn't help
it's
it.
true.
I'm sorry.
But I do have one more story that I need to share about this because it
Yes,
actually
okay.
is really interesting. So prior to us last year going to Costa Rica,
Mhm.
we like the like spirits were really like heavily showing themselves and like Tyler was also feeling them. Like they were
Interesting.
very active. It was like every single night
So it
and
wasn't just you seeing them at this point. It was like Tyler was also
Tyler was also
noticing.
like feeling them or sometimes like
Oh.
thinking that he saw them and like but they also were like making a lot of noises, like
Oh,
bangings,
jeez.
like things like this.
Okay.
And it was, like, getting a bit intense. So, like, I reached out to someone that I know that, like, like, she's, like, a medium and she, like, speaks to
Mhm.
spirit and whatever. So I had her sort of do, like, an analysis on our home just to, like I wanted
Interesting.
to understand better.
Yeah.
And so she was like, she kind of went into like a lot of like the history of our house that we bought because it was like an older home that they renovated.
Yeah.
And they were saying that like the original family of the home had a lot of children and all of them died like in the house. So
Oh, geez.
and in the bedroom that we slept in was like where they would have like the wake of for the children. So which makes sense because I
Great.
would feel a lot of this like young energy and I
Mhm.
their energy would like bounce around the house. And it would feel like I would almost think that it was like a ball that was like flying in the corner of my eye. I would
Yeah,
see them a
yeah.
lot. And that a lot of the older energy that I was seeing was like the original like owners of the house, which were the
Mhm.
ones that I was seeing in the doorway.
Yeah.
But she said all of them kept showing her red, that there was something red in the house. And like anyway, and I was like, it's so weird because like my house is so neutral. Like
Yeah,
our
it's
house
like
is so
neutral
neutral.
colors, but there's
There's
red.
no red. And she's like, they keep showing me the color red. I keep feeling heat. Like I don't know what it is, but like look, if there's something in your house that has to be red. Anyway, fast forward, we're in Costa Rica. There's like a really bad rainstorm, and one of the like electrical like things that are underneath of our house explodes. And if it wasn't a
No.
rainstorm, our house would have burnt down. I feel to me that those spirits were trying to warn us because the electrical outlet was right underneath of our room. That they were
Holy
trying to warn
shit.
us that that thing was going to explode. And like they were trying to keep us safe.
With, like especially with, like, the spirit guide saying, like, red
Yeah.
and all that kinda stuff, like, that's
Exactly. Like, I think that they were
crazy.
trying to warn us, and they were trying to keep us from, like, being in a deep sleep, so we would, like, not like, so that we could react
Yeah,
to
and,
that
like,
fire.
you would be able to react in time to it.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Isn't that bananas? Anyway.
That is bananas. I wanna contribute something. I wanna show it as a I'll add it to the edit afterwards, but
Yes.
this is one of the craziest things that, my sister sent to me recently.
Okay.
Look at this.
Oh my god, no. Okay, so Slater's showing me a picture, and there's, like it's like a crack in the doorway, and there's, like, these eyes and almost a face in it.
Yes.
Ugh!
For those on the audio side. It's like the craziest thing. And she sent that to me being like, "Oh yeah, my good friend sent that to me and it's apparently the bathroom ghost that just likes to hang out there." And I'm like, "That is the most like physical thing I've ever seen of
Yeah.
like spiritual realm stuff like
Oh,
that in within my group of
interesting.
friends or anything like that."
Whoa.
So I was just like, I had to share that on top of this
Oh my
question,
gosh. I
yeah,
have so
because
many stories. We could do, like, an entire episode
we
of
should just
just talking about this.
honestly, why not? Let's just do a like a spirit episode or something
Yeah,
like
we
that.
need
That'd be
to.
fun. That would be hilarious. Okay, next question there. Let's do. Oh, this could be very interesting
Okay.
actually. I work with youth in conservative towns.
Yes.
What is one thing I can do to help them be their most true authentic selves?
I think this goes back to like the parent question a bit too, or like that we had earlier. I think a
Mhm.
bit too is just like, how can we like, how can we show diversity and like representation in a way that, like isn't forcing anything on people? And
Yeah.
like, like I'll never forget about like those teachers that I had in high school that like, they never like asked me if I was gay or like it was never like in my face, but they were always like very encouraging,
Mhm.
of the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And like and a lot of like those ways were like the way that my femininity wanted to express themselves, and like they were
Mhm.
super encouraging about that. And and I think it's just like too about like reaching out when you do see a student that is like maybe struggling, and not just like, I think like physically but also like mentally, like
Mhm.
like I think I really appreciate a lot of those teachers that could see that I was like going through a lot like
Yeah.
mentally, and like reached out to me so that I could try like like just I guess they just encouraged me and like tried to be my friend and like created a safe space for them, so
Yeah.
some of those things is like wearing, the progressive like rainbow flag maybe, or, like just trying to talk to them and see how they're doing and like start to create trust and open dialogue, like
Mhm.
I think that those can be like such powerful things, just like for youth to know that someone actually cares about them,
Yeah.
because they might not be getting that at home. So,
Exactly, yeah. That's a good way of putting that. I really like that answer. Alright, we'll go on to the next question, though. Oh, well, this kinda actually almost relates, but let's see if maybe there's something different. If
okay.
not, we'll just cut it. What's your very first interaction with fashion growing up?
I mean, like, so my parents, like, I grew up in a really small town,
Mhm.
and I didn't like, we had like 3 or 4 channels on the TV.
Yeah.
We like, we didn't have internet. Like, I didn't really have exposure, to be honest, like to fashion, except my parents would like let me go to like the video renting store, and I would get like
Yeah.
VHS tapes of like National Geographic films.
Mhm.
And my grandmother also always had, like, National Geographics, like, at her house.
Okay.
So, like, to be honest, like, my first, like, exposure to fashion was really, like, through history, you know?
Interesting.
So, like, I was so fascinated by at a young age of, like, ancient cultures because of the fashion, Like,
Yeah.
I thought it was so interesting seeing people that would dress in these ways, and I was like, "I wanna dress like that," because I felt like it was, like, the history was challenging the societal norms that I was, like, confined within,
Yeah, yeah.
And so, like, I think that that really was, like, where my love of fashion kind of came from, and and the exposure of it that, like, that inspires me really kind of stemmed from those sort of, like, first moments of me learning about history. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. Like the maybe it's like, did you ever have a time like at the ROM and seeing like some of the fashion exhibits there?
I mean, like, because I grew up in Nova Scotia, like, we
Oh,
didn't we
yeah,
didn't
you wouldn't.
have it. So,
Yeah, yeah.
like, yeah, that was, and it was just like, my town was so isolating and very white, so there wasn't like
There's nothing
there's
like
no exposure, So,
really.
like,
Oh, damn.
yeah, I don't know. So it was like, when I saw like the Egyptians and like men would be wearing eyeliner, and like I thought that was so like fascinating, and like,
Hmm.
the Grecians and the Romans like wearing leather skirts. Like it was just like in
Oh,
togas, like these things, like I was just like, and the Mayans and the Aztecs with these like giant feathered headpieces and stuff. And I was like, whoa, like this is so cool to like see what I considered feminine things on
yeah.
such masculine like body types.
Isn't that crazy? Like the amount of like what used to be like considered masculine
Yeah,
stuff has now changed to a feminine state, which is like out of nowhere too.
totally.
Heels being one of those.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, like men started wearing heels before women did,
well
like
before.
historically. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like crazy kind of fancy looking heels too,
Yes.
are you sure they ain't are
Yeah,
you sure they ain't like flips wrist
totally.
basically
It
kind
was
of
just
thing?
very different.
Yeah, it's just that time of time. But I'll go on to the next question there. This is a nice one. How did you discover you were non-binary?
Oh, I mean, this is an interesting one because, I've talked about it a little bit on an older podcast episode, but
Mhm.
like I, like I never felt that I was male or female, and like I really like at a young age, I like really did think about if I, wanted to transition to one or the other,
Mhm.
or like transition into a female. But I didn't I don't know, there wasn't that didn't like fully resonate with me.
Yeah.
And I didn't, I never felt like I was a woman, but I wanted to embrace my femininity. And, so I think when the term like non-binary, sort of came into our language, like I just felt like it was the first time that I really had a word to describe how I've always felt. Because I always felt like I've flowed in between, these sort of binaries of gender.
Mhm.
And like, in the indigenous communities, they have like two spirit, and
Yeah.
then the term like androgynous came, and I used that for a really long time. But I don't know. I think it was just more like, okay, now I have this word that I think actually represents like my masculinity and femininity and allows me to like be in this like ambiguous like space in the middle.
Yeah.
Um so like recognizing that was sort of the first step. But
Mhm.
then I don't know, I had to like really like let go of a lot of my internalized like shame and like femme phobia as well,
Mhm.
because I like it was really hard for me to like finally like say that's what I was, because I think there was also like a lot of like backlash at the time, like talking about non-binary and
Yeah.
pronouns, and like, like I didn't, I don't know, I guess I just didn't want that attention, and like didn't want people to like think that this is like a phase, but like
Mhm.
non-binary people have existed since the dawn of time. And
Oh,
like
yeah.
I guess I just had to get to a good place where I felt really like confident in that I could like completely like own that as part of my identity. So I feel like it took me a lot longer. And it was harder, I think, in
Yeah.
a lot of ways than like coming out as queer. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, I totally get it because it's like it's hard to kind of discover that, especially because we're so stuck in the idea of like you're either a boy or a girl.
Yes,
And it's like the idea of even being a mix of them just sounds like something impossible, you know?
totally.
Yeah. So it's like to be introduced to that idea, to even being shown, is like, hey, you can exist on the spectrum of it
Yes,
all.
exactly.
Yeah. And it's also like reassuring, like you came out as non-binary, but you like have a beard and you do
Yes,
present masculine in certain ways and all that
totally.
kind of stuff too. So it's like, it's nice to also like remind people, it's like, hey, like non-binary exists on such a big spectrum that you don't have to be smack dab in the middle either. And like you can
Totally.
be like this or that, depends on
Yes.
how you feel,
Yeah, I
you
don't think
know?
there's like one face to it, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
There's no one thing for it ever. So yeah. Let's do
true.
one more question, I think, and then we will call it for this. Oh, this is just a positive one. This is really cute, but I think it's good to be aware of this too. You are so constantly, refreshingly genuinely positive. How do you stay that way?
I mean, like, I'm definitely a hot mess.
I think that's what they never know underneath
Yeah,
is like we're all hot messes here.
totally. We all are hot messes.
Yes.
I'm a very empathic person. I feel like I feel things on such a intense level,
Mhm.
So I think sometimes for me, I really try to focus on like joy and happiness and positivity, because I think that that is the energy that I'm putting out, and that's the energy that I want to receive back.
Mhm.
But it's not to say that I'm not like that all of the time. I think that's just like what I want to put on social media, and
Of
it's what
course.
I curate to show. Just because there's also like I think with social media, it's like there's not a lot of that exists on it, and I think a
Mhm.
lot of it is like negative, and this really stemmed from like a time of like the pandemic where we were all going through so much, and like
Mhm.
and it was really like the first time that I was like really like just showing my smile online. I was like very serious for a very long time of my life, and
Yeah.
so it's just like I think there's just been this sort of like shift of like I really want to be positive and put out joy and happiness. And I think because it's like it's so contagious. And I think when we see someone being excited or happy or whatever, like we can't help but take on that energy. And I think that's sort of like a gift that we just kind of sort of we keep sharing with people.
Mhm.
Um, but I am trying to be a bit better when I am feeling like low or not in my sort of like high vibrational state, that I'm also trying to show that, but
Mhm.
definitely not the case all of the time.
Oh,
But
yeah, yeah.
I just think from a social media level, I use it as a tool to spread joy. So it's what I do try to show the most of, I guess.
Yeah,
So
and it makes sense too. Like we need more positivity in the world, so sometimes like you don't want to see all that type of stuff. But it's like I think that's nice that you are opening up some of that vulnerability and putting that out there, because that's it. I think everyone just always sees such a like, oh, such a great time. They're
Yes,
always living their best lives or something
totally.
like that. But it's like, no, not every day is going to be great.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
I think that's important. Like, we also need to feel those emotions and those feelings. And just because we're feeling them doesn't mean that they're negative. And I think that
exactly.
that's like why I'm trying to balance things out a little bit more is like, because I don't want people to feel like shame or just like avoid being sad or avoid being mad or whatever. Like
Mhm.
these are all like natural human experiences that we need to experience and learn from. Right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna call it there. We're gonna probably do another part 3 on this, and so yeah,
And
we'll be back.
stay tuned.
Yes.